Hi guys, hold on for a second. Before we proceed to the video, I have something very important to tell you. Professor John B. Kofus has published his new book in collaboration with Little French Media, and the title of the book is Neoliberalism, Inequality, and Authoritarianism. This book details how neoliberalism impacts the geopolitical economy in the 21st century. You can buy it from Amazon and the link is in the description. Thank you. Now let's proceed to the video.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brief introduction for a longer video, much longer video, on the complexities of how liberal democracy in our 21st century has led to populism, right-wing populism, and quasi-authoritarianism to the degree that governments around the world, from advanced capitalist countries like the United States, during the first Trump administration, as well as the incoming second Trump administration, have no qualms about openly embracing what are very clearly positions that at the very least belong in the domain of authoritarianism, if not the domain of interwar fascism or Nazism. There are very complex questions here, from ideological to political to social issues to questions about how the economic elites, the socioeconomic elites, and the media influence the public mind to confuse the mere rather superficial act of choosing pre-selected candidates by the elites, financed by elites, and given on a platter to the public to choose one of those which the elites have already chosen. This is obviously very clear from the very recent election in the United States, where both candidates were uh, very heavily financed by Wall Street and billionaires whose policies they follow. They follow the policies that would further maintain the privileged status of these people. And that raises the question whether this is Jeffersonian democracy, for example, in the case of America. Is this what democracy is? Now let's look at the term. The term democracy is actually a derivative from classical Greek. It's two words. Demos means people, the public, and krasi, democracy. Krasi, the second part, is rule by the people, rule by the public. Is there rule by the public, or is there another appropriate Greek word that we should be using, which is actually also a two-part word, which is called plutocracy? Plutos, which means riches, krasi, which means rule by the rich. In fact, when you follow the trail of money, the billions, not millions, billions spent for the everything from the presidential election in the United States all the way down to the senatorial elections, congressional, state elections, local elections, all that money flowing into, it's very clear who determines outcomes and whose interests the politician then turns around and serves. It's not the people. The people, presumably, the word means all people, all of them, not just the richest 1%, as the senator from Vermont, Senator Bernie Sanders, pointed out when, in the aftermath of the disastrous outcome for the Democratic Party in the United States, he came out and said, what we have here is the working class of America abandoning the Democratic Party, which was what this was the party of Franklin Roosevelt, who mobilized the masses. He mobilized the working class and the middle class to come to the Democratic Party. And what has happened by the time of Biden, an abandonment of the working class by the Democratic Party. Now, the question, of course, for the larger video that I have is, to what degree has liberal democracy under a pluralistic identity politics system led to authoritarianism and brought on a silver platter someone like Donald Trump that the Democrats clearly loathe. They regard him and the liberal media, not just the Democrats, but the liberal media, liberal intellectuals, think tanks and so forth on down the line, they have disdain for this individual. But the fact is, Donald Trump and the GOP, the grand old party, the Republican Party, represent America. They represent a large chunk of America. They don't represent everybody, but they represent those who cast the ballot for the two candidates pre-selected for the public by Wall Street and given to them and on a silver platter. There were other people running. There was Jill Stein running, but the fact is that she was not favored institutionally. She was not favored by the elites. She was sidelined. She was marginalized. No one promoted Jill Stein. In any case, let that be as it may. The video that I have basically looks at how the genesis of authoritarianism is not just in conservative politics, as the Democrats and conservative media and right wing talk shows and individuals and the cult of personality of people like Trump and individuals who want to bring about the decline of consensus politics, bipartisanship, and want to take the country to farther to the right. Rather, uh, my contention is that this is a global phenomenon. It has nothing to do. The United States is just one country. The fact is that we have in Europe, those of you who have been looking at following trends in European politics, you know that Europe has been moving to the right from the Scandinavian countries, from Sweden to Austria, to Hungary, to Italy, France, by the way. Europe is moving to the right. What has happened throughout the Western world, but also in the global South, in India, in Brazil, what has happened is that the traditional conservatives have moved to the right, to the far right. And the liberals, the traditional so called liberals, the centrists, as we once called them, have moved more or less to the conservative camp. So, what is the voter to do? Who are these people representing? Whose interests are they representing? The working class is rightly confused because it is looking for salvation. It's looking for answers, and it's looking for answers to the liberal democratic wing, whether it's in Europe or in Latin America or in the United States and Canada. And what do? They deliver policies, domestic and foreign policies that are authoritarian, by the way, that are not that are anti-working class, because neoliberalism is a political economy based on class warfare and corporate welfare, diminishing the welfare state. And it has been a political party, a political camp promoting militarism as a way of life, forever war doctrine, solving very serious, complex issues that require diplomatic solutions through military means, knowing there is no solution. For example, the most recent case is the situation, the proxy war in Ukraine, behind which, of course, Ukraine is the United States and its NATO allies. Russia has the most nuclear warheads on the planet. Behind Russia is China. Okay? China and Russia are not going to give up. To allow the United States and NATO to permeate the Transcaucasus region and Central Asia as a means of containing Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China, and dominating all that region. They're not just not going to do that. They have the nuclear weapons to fight back. The question for the voter is, why is there always massive amounts of money for that war, as well as the genocidal war that Israel has been carrying out in Gaza, but there is no money for school lunches for American children? Why is there money for a bottomless pit of forever war doctrine wars um, in at the regional level, destabilizing countries at a huge cost, and toward what end, of course, is debatable, while there's no money for social and economic development at home? And then there is the head scratching when Trump wins and the Democratic Party, which supposedly represents the workers and the middle class, loses. I invite you to take a look at this video to explore more um, aspects of how liberals and the liberal movement, the liberal elites, and the liberal identity politics, um, institutionalized mechanisms from media to think tanks to academia have actually led society to the right, to look for solutions to the right, unfortunately, and to embrace uh, individuals like Donald Trump, who has openly admitted he has no qualms about authoritarianism. I also invite you to write comments, by the way, and join this channel, which my good friend Asad Ali manages. Thank you very much.